Getting ready to watch our community meeting on Zoom. We're filling in from our tour, so it'll just be a few minutes and then we'll start the meeting. So give us about 5 minutes and then we'll launch this pre-construction meeting for the Rinconada water treatment plant. Thanks. Mute again? Yeah. Mute. All right, welcome back, attendees on Zoom. My name is Mike Potter. I'm the community outreach supervisor for Valley Water, and the behind this camera that you can't quite see is a room full of people who just returned from not a 3-hour tour, but a short tour of the Rinconada water treatment plant. Hopefully, that's given them lots of great things to ask questions about. But we are. This reliability improvement project is one of Valley Water's most ambitious capital efforts. It's been a while since we've been able to gather in person before I even was at Valley Water. So it's been more than 4 years, I know that. So welcome back to many of you who've been here before. We're working, work has been continuing on this project, but we welcome this opportunity to let you know about the improvements that have occurred and what lies ahead in the next construction phases. We are broadcasting live over Zoom, so we'd like to welcome folks there again, apparently. And this meeting is being recorded, and we'll post that on our YouTube channel. So if there's something you want to double check or rewatch that you didn't quite hear, you'll be able to do that in the next couple days. As a housekeeping item for our guests here, the restrooms are located just across the hall, and there's snacks and cookies and coffee. And then following the meeting, we ask that you fill out a brief survey, which will help us be more effective as we reach out to the community. And if you have any additional concerns that you don't want to ask or bring up in a meeting, you can feel free to ask away, and we'll be sure to get that response for you. And during the meeting, Tony Mercado will be introduced and pointed to several times. Many of you know him very well, and so he's our community liaison. And so if you have a question, his business card is over there as well. So now I'd like to introduce Director Rebecca Eisenberg, who is your representative for District 7 on the Valley Water Board of Directors. She was elected in 2022 to represent Palo Alto, Mountain View, Los Altos, Monte Sereno, the town of Los Altos Hills, parts of South San Jose, and of course, the town of Los Gatos. I'd like to welcome up her to say a few words this evening.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thanks so much, Mike. It's always fun to do this with you. And thanks everyone for welcoming me here to your city, your town. I love it. It's beautiful. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. And I'm also honored to serve you as the new director of District 7. It is a joy to do my job. And I literally relish every minute of it. And the thing I love most is interacting with the ratepayers and the constituents and the residents and the business people. So I encourage you all to reach out to me afterwards because I really want to hear what you have to say. I learned so much from all of you. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge my fellow elected officials who have joined us this evening. Here from the town of Los Gatos, there's Councilmember Maria Risto. I'm very, hi, yeah, back there, yeah. I don't even think we've met, and I'm really looking forward to doing so. I live way up in Palo Alto, which is only an hour and 20 minutes in this rain, but it's worth it.
I go up there a lot.
It's great, right? Well, I hope we can find a time to touch base, get to know each other. And here from the Valley Water Board of Directors, I'm honored that we have our chair, Naishua, and also Director, I always want to say Senator Jim Bell, who's also here with us. If either of you would like to say anything, now is the time I welcome. If you don't have to, I don't think there's, okay, so thank you. I don't think there's any other director on Zoom, but if I'm wrong about that, I apologize and welcome. And to the community members on Zoom, hi, nice to have you here too. We are here this evening to talk about the tremendous effort taking place here to ensure that Santa Clara County has a reliable, safe, and clean drinking water supply, which of course is one of our statutory duties, and we take it very seriously. Rinconada has been a major player in that effort. I just learned it was built in 1967, which means it's about a year older than me. It's 57 years old, and it has performed, I've been told, pretty well over the years, which is great. But like all things, it needs a renovation, and that's what this effort is about. To ensure that we can sustain with our existing equipment, which is pretty important, rather than starting all over. I think it's always great to reuse and keep alive the equipment we have. Being a certified tree hugger, as many of you know, having said that, I also recognize, although I'm learning this for the first time, and for that I apologize, but I recognize and I've heard that it can be pretty difficult at times and challenging to live close to a big construction project. And I'm here to say on behalf of my colleagues and the district that your concerns are important. And that I'm brand new to all this, so I can't say I know what's happened in the past, but I can say with a lot of confidence that they have in the past, tried hard and will try hard and even harder, in the future to make sure as this construction project occurs that minimal impacts occur to all of you all, because you all are why we're here. And it's important. You might have a lot of questions about traffic, noise, impact on your quality of life, and those are important. And some answers will be provided tonight, but this isn't the end of the conversation. We have some extraordinary staff here who will listen to you. And as I said before, I will listen to you too, and what can be done will be done. Valley Water has always strived to be a good neighbor, despite these challenges. And again, these are challenges I'm still not aware of, I tell you, but I look forward to hearing. I mean, I'm sure each and every one of you have a different perspective, and I want to hear as many of those perspectives as possible. As always, we encourage your feedback, if I didn't say that enough already. There's going to be a survey afterwards that you're encouraged to fill out. Again, this isn't going to be the end of everything. The neighborhood liaison is Tony Mercado, who's here, and he will provide his contact information if you don't have it already. And he's also happy to answer all of your questions and to be there for you and to respond to your concerns. And I love it when Aaron Baker nods when I'm talking, because I know I'm doing something. Thank you. You make me so happy. I'm now done talking. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Emmanuel, who you've heard talk before, or my first handing it back to Mike Potter, who's also. And again, this is the beginning of a conversation. Nothing can be done alone, and we'll only succeed if we do this together. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Director Eisenberg. So thank you, Director Eisenberg. The remainder of this meeting will be conducted in two parts. First, our Deputy Operating Officer, Emmanuel Ari, will provide an overview of the Reliability Improvement Project and our progress to date and the details of what's to come. And the second part of our meeting will be dedicated to hearing from you, from our attendees in person and on Zoom. You'll have the opportunity to ask the project team about the work, and we'll do our best to answer them. If we need to do a little research, we'll get back to you with the answer. We'll make sure we'll make sure we have your contact information on the sign-in sheet. I think many of you talk to Tony as often as I do sometimes. So I know you know how to reach him, but if you don't, if you're new, his cell phone is on his business card. And next, I'll turn it over to Emmanuel, who's overseeing this project.
Good afternoon or evening. My name is Emmanuel. I am the program manager, and I have a project team who will help me during the question and answer time. I have Brandon Pons, who is the project manager, and then I have Fernando and Lizzie to help. And then we'll also get help from our operation team, Sam, who took you around. And it seems to me like from the questions that you were asking, it looks like the residents and the attendees know more about the project than we think. And so that was very, very interesting. I'll briefly go through my presentation and then we'll get into the question and answer. So my agenda will include, I'll give you a background, and then project objectives. I'll take you through the phases that Sam talked about, and then I'll give some details on the phase 3 to 6 work. The phase 1 to 2 has already been completed. And then we'll talk a little bit about the demolition of the clarifiers. I think he showed you the clarifiers that we are taking out to create space. And then we'll go through the other phases, the new facilities, and then the timeline, where you can get project information if you need them. So the background, when we started this project, Valley Water started this project somewhere in 2015. And that's a picture of how the plant looked like at that time. As has already been conveyed to you, this is the second largest treatment plant for Valley Water. It was originally built in 1967, and it's the sole plant that provides treated water in the West Valley to the various cities, Los Gatos, Saratoga, Los Altos, and the rest. The project objectives, and I'm talking about the whole phase 1 to phase 6, include upgrading the aging equipment. Most of the facilities, like from 67, are almost at what we call the end of the design life. Meaning, when we designed it, it was designed to last maybe 15 years and it's passed. So it needs to be replaced. And Valley Water is undertaking replacement of their infrastructure to make sure we are supplying water and we're making sure the residents get water supply. It's also, the project is being undertaken to comply with updated seismic codes. In California, we undergo a lot of earthquakes and various disasters. And so current codes stipulate what we have to comply by. And then the other part is to meet current water quality standards. Sam talked about the Division of Water standards that we adhere to. And then we have to improve the plant safety. And then we increase the water production. I think he talked about right now we can produce up to 80 million gallons per day. And by the end, when we finish the project, we'll be able to produce 100 million gallons per day. And then, in general, the reliability project is to improve the reliability of water supply to the residents. So the phases, we started with phase 1. And I showed you the picture of the original plant in 2015 when we started. And the picture on the left is when we completed phase 1 and 2. And that's how the plant looks like. And then on the right is the phase 3 to 6. And that's an artist's rendition of what we think the plant will look like after we finish the phase 3 to 6. So the phase 3 to 6 work is broken into phase 3. We are going to be doing the demolition of the clarifiers, which we have talked about. And then we will do a lot of construction work to make way for phase 4 and 5. And that's what you've seen, the surveying, potholing. We do potholing to identify or find some of the pipelines or things which were buried in 1967. And sometimes.
What is potholing?
Potholing is when we go, we drill through the ground, and then we hit a pipe or thinking where we think the pipe will be laid, and then we put it on paper, and that tells us there's a pipe in that particular position, and so we have to take extra care when we're digging down there. Then we'll be doing traffic control. In phase 4, we'll be building new facilities. I think Sam talked about the new ozone generation building, liquid oxygen facility, and then we'll be building filters, and then a chlorine contact basin. And then phase 5 to 6 is where we bring everything together. We do the chemical facilities, and then we'll be doing demolition of the existing filters that we've already shown and the other basins, and then we'll get into the construction end, which we call demobilization. The contractor takes their things away, and then there's peace. You don't hear any noise and things anymore. So the as was shown by Sam out there are 4 big clarifiers, concrete clarifiers, which we're going to be taking out to make space for the new facilities that we're bringing on board, because they are taking a lot of space. And I think there was a question on how it will be done. And right now, I understand that it will be done from east to west. And I can't really point from here. I think we are standing this way. Yeah, so the east is the one close to you, and then the west is on the other side. And we number it 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2. And so that is where, we're gonna do a lot of work by the contractor, and we'll be trying as much as possible to reduce the noise, reduce the impact, we're not going to be using explosives. The contractor is going to use taking down some of the facilities and equipment. Then we go into phase 4, and in phase 4, we build the new facilities after the clarifiers have been demolished and the area cleaned out. We will be building, like I said, the liquid oxygen storage, the new ozone building, the new chlorine contact basin, and then the new filters. And then phase 5 and 6 is where we finish up with the rest of the facilities, and then we make certain improvements as we go along. And then we also bring the construction to completion. So that's the phase 3 to 6 construction work that we are going to be undertaking. This is the timeline of what right now we have. Phase 3 will begin March, like he said, somewhere middle of March. And that's fall 2024. There's a typo, to spring 2025. And phase 4 will be spring 2025 to 2027. And phase 5 to 6 will be 2027 to late 2029. And so 2029 is when we will finish the project. And when the project goes out. And then the last slide I have is the project information. If you need project information, Tony will be updating our website with all the information, and he's the representative who can be reached. And he also sometimes will reach over to the project team or the operations team to answer some of the questions that neighbors and residents might have, or other people who are interested in the project. So before I finish, I wanted to highlight that, the district has a capital improvement program, which our board approves every year. And every year we take it around to the various cities to tell them about what the Valley Water capital projects involve. And we encourage you to participate in the process. Right now, the process is going on. I think we are at the stage where we are, the board approved on Tuesday for us to take it to the various cities to tell the cities about what we are doing. Then the other big plan or program that we have, we call it the Water Supply Master Plan. And it's the guiding document which tells everybody about our long-term water supply investments, which projects we are undertaking, which new projects we are undertaking, and it's updated every 5 years. So again, we encourage you to participate in the process since our board takes a very good view of what they hear from the residents, as the director just talked about. This is the end of my presentation. I'll hand it over to Mike.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Emmanuel, for that. And don't go too far because I suspect you'll be one of the people asking a question. And we have some other experts in the room, including a couple of our, we call them chiefs here at Valley Water, our acknowledge Aaron Baker, who's our Chief Operating Officer for Water Utility. And he's here, as well as Tina Yoke, who's our Chief Operating Officer for Information Technology and Administrative Services. Welcome, Tina. And so with that, we're happy to answer. And so those of you on Zoom, I almost forgot, you can also ask a question, but please don't use the chat box because it's tricky to follow. We have a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and staff can read those, and we'll ask the question out loud so everybody in the room can hear it as well. Or if you'd like, you can raise your hand virtually on Zoom, and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. So with that, let's go ahead and see if anybody in the room has some questions. And so this is the big microphone. I've been told it can hear everybody, so remember that if you're chatting with your neighbor. But let's go ahead and start with you, and we'll repeat your question if we need to.
My question is, how much does this cost and who is paying?
How much does this project cost and who is paying for it? That's a great question. I know just the man to ask.
Yeah, the construction cost is about 304 or 5 million, and the the funds come from the water rates, and so the residents pay for it. Yes.
Water rates.
Water rates.
35 million.
Any other questions? Okay, hopefully that answered your question. So let's go to the next one. Yes.
So thank you for the update and everything. I was here last time and I was surprised to get the notice. I thought we were done and you were going to display everything that was done. I'm curious to hear about phases 1 and 2 and whether or not you were on target time-wise, because it seems like a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm just curious, like, what was the original target? How did that go? What were the successes or pitfalls in your first 2 phases? As a way to maybe think about.
That's a great question. I know we have a very careful answer to that question.
Yes, you're right.
Can you
Oh,
answer my
sorry.
question right before hers? Were you part of that first phase 1 and 2?
I was not part at the beginning, but I was brought in at the tail end of it, and I completed the phase 1.
No, go for it.
Great clarification.
Yeah. So the project started in 2015. You're right. You know, it started that we were going to finish the phases 1 to 6 by 2020, right? Okay. So what happened was that, you know, and I tried to answer it this way, you know, we were too optimistic.
It's like it's 9 years, right?
Right. We were too optimistic at the beginning for such a complex project. And we thought we could finish it by 2020. So there were a lot of challenges. Now, one of the things that I think Sam alluded to while he was talking to you was, you know, we were doing this construction project while at the same time we were running the plant. And so those two, when they merge, it's a very difficult something to do. And at the beginning, that was not taken into consideration. It was taken into consideration, but not at the level that it had to be. And so that created a lot of challenge. Now, when we brought in the contractor also gave us the assurance that they will be able to complete the work by the time, but when they started the work, then they realized they couldn't complete it. And so they started also creating all kinds of problems. And there were legal problems, and all kinds. So as I said before, I was brought in 2018 or 2019. And so we had to enter into a new agreement with the contractor. And we came to the schedule that we will finish phase 1 to 2 in 2 years. And so we did that. So going back to your question, whether it was on time, from the beginning, it wasn't on time. But when we entered into another agreement with the contractor, we finished it on time. We finished from 2018 to 2020 on time.
In the last 4 years, I'm sorry, I don't mean to harp on this.
No.
I'm just very, it for me perturbs the future, and I'm worried that you say it's gonna be another, till 2029, and I just don't really, just concerned about what this all really means, and also the impact that it's had for me and all of us as neighbors.
So we introduced Chief Aaron Baker, who's newly became our Chief of Water Utility in the last
about 2 years.
2 years.
So we definitely hear your concerns, and I think that as Manuel was talking about, we were able to complete phases 1 and 2, and what we've been doing in the meantime, we completed it about 2 years ago.
2 years.
Right. So in the meantime, we took a step back and we've relooked at the design. We've hired the right people to get into the right places. We've put in a realistic schedule, and so we've hired more people. We've done everything we can, everything we reasonably can. We've brought in Emmanuel, and of course, you have my commitment on making sure that this new timeline that we have for phases 3 through 6 are reasonable and something that the district is committed to completing. So we have the right team and we have the right place, and we understand your concern, with the hiccup we had with phases 1 and 2, but we've taken a step back. We've looked at what we've done. We've modified the design. We've brought in the right construction management folks. We've brought in all the things that we need to do so that we believe that the schedule that we've shown now is a realistic schedule that we will be able to deliver on.
Is it the same construction company that did the first 2 phases?
It is not.
Thank you.
Tell them who they are.
Kiewit Construction, we have one of their representatives.
Do it. One of the biggest.
Has it always been the same plan from the beginning? Has it always been like?
So the question is, has the plan been the same? Or we've modified the plan?
Cycle water treatment plant primarily for the Rinconada. Has the plan changed? And
We can come in. So the processes have always been the same, where we're adding raw water ozonation, changing to the new changing some treatment plants and operating some technologies. This particular plant was the way that we're changing the treatment plant, or the way that we're adding the additional facilities, that's always been the same plan. What we've done when we took a step back was to really understand the timing to ensure that we could do this at the same time while we kept the plant operating. I think some of the lessons that we talked about before was trying to do this while the plant was operating caused some conflicts and some other things that are going on. So although we aren't changing the technology to reverse osmosis or microfiltration or some of those other things that we do have our Advanced Water Purification Center, we are bringing in some new technologies that will definitely help us with taste and odor and help us with being able to make sure that we meet the new water quality standards in the future. Did I answer enough, or you were thinking that?
the plan's modified in the last 10 or whatever since the original plan was made.
I think you're presenting the information for the first time, correct? Phases 3 through 6?
Because we didn't know about.
Is this the first time you're presenting it to the neighbors and the public?
No.
So it's always been, there's always been
Yes.
5 to 6 phases. This is where we at phases 1 and 2, the projects took a pause. We took a step back and tried to figure out a better way that we could ensure that we can complete phases 3 through 6 into the future.
And you guys have the documentation that you can give to us for transparency.
that it was always 6 phases.
It should be on the project page.
Sure, or we'd be more than happy to talk with you a little further about that.
It's just that it's 9 years longer than.
Yeah.
Than you thought.
When it was originally presented, it was not 1 to 6. It was a 5-year.
Was it? I think it was. It was just gonna be done in 2020.
Right, it's just,
And so those, it was supposed to be completed within the first 5 years?
Correct.
Okay.
and
Ambitious.
And
Right.
is there has somebody reevaluated the communication within, like, as neighbors? Like I said, I was shocked. I thought, oh, they're gonna show us the new facility. It's all done. It's gonna be great. Like, you had 2 years at least to know that this was not happening, and I didn't know anything.
so we definitely apologize for the lack of communication, it sounds like, with the neighbors. And we definitely will strive to do better and commit to do better as we move forward. I think we've got Tony, and a whole group of communications folks and a communications plan,
Yes.
that we will work for. And I do think that, it sounds like it's been a while since we've been able to kind of put through some of these out there, and we commit to having more regular communications with you all.
I say Tony is great.
Yeah.
No, he's great, because he is a great communicator, but somehow you guys missed the mark really big, really big.
There was a pause during the pandemic as well.
Correct.
So in the early tour, they talk about the certain level of classification to operate the facility. So it was a real shutdown during that, like beyond shutdown of most places, because if the operators were to get sick, we can't purify water. So food was being brought in. I mean, there's some real thoughtful procedures put in place to do that. So that sort of sequestered this area for a while. So this is my first time out here, was this last couple of weeks. So, but we're committed to making sure you know every step of the way what we're doing. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about something Emmanuel said with the demolition of the clarifiers, I believe, that you were going to have some explosives.
Will not have explosives.
Well,
You will
no.
not.
Not. They're going to do everything they can to be as quiet as possible, but
Got
they
it,
will
got
not
it.
have explosives.
Okay, so.
Let me emphasize to those on Zoom, no explosives. Okay. That's I'm glad you asked. That's really important.
It's a big difference.
Yes, in the back, sir.
Actually, I have 3 questions. So I was up here originally during the presentation, thought it was gonna be a 5-year project. Now it's gonna be much longer. So I understand part of the delay. So first question is, the horizontal clarifiers you have out here are gonna be demolished and removed. How is the capacity for the plant gonna, if you take those out, what replaces the clarification process while they're?
Great question.
Sam,
Yes, I can answer that. Because, we're already built in the.
You need to come up to the front so the audience can hear you. And can we put the Zoom presentation and show the
If you give us the pages.
slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, the back.
Show that picture.
Use a computer in front of the audience.
Go back to the phases here. Go back to the pictures, yeah.
Picture, yeah, there it
Is
is.
it perfect?
That's the one.
Okay. So, if you don't mind, let me point out, so, go back a little bit, the previous pictures.
There we go.
Okay, one more.
Phase 3.
Yeah.
Now, this is the current look of the facility. So these are the old clarifiers that are gonna be
Where are
removed.
we? Where are we right now?
We're here now,
Right
right?
over here.
Yeah, we're
Who's in
in
here?
building, right? So these are the new
Right there.
float set basins that are already built. So these are in service. These clarifiers are empty, are no longer in service. That's why we're building it in steps, right? So now we already have, the plant processing water, so there will be no impact at all. Now, when these are demolished, we have this already clarifying the water. Now, the next step for us, to remove these filters, we have to build new filters. Now, once this is demo and the next phase 5, we'll build new filters in this area, and then we remove the old filters. So that's why phase 1 and 2 was done in phases because we want to make sure that, before we go and demo the old facilities, we have new facilities, to treat the water. As we mentioned earlier, this is the only facility that we have in the west side of the valley, so we don't have any redundant facility, to take this offline and build. So that's why also one of the challenges that we talked about, building a new facility while we're trying to maintain the operation and supply to the west side.
Thank you. That's
Excellent question.
Great
Second
question.
question is from my wife, who couldn't be here tonight. And her question is, since there's so many drugs like fentanyl coming across the border every day, and we hear the amount is enough to kill Americans, every few days you hear these statistics, which are quite alarming. What does this plant do to make sure that the water we receive is of high quality, there's no fentanyl or other drugs, anything else that a terrorist put in this capacity that could wipe out the west side?
Yes, I think that's a very good question, right? So even though this facility is not, the facilities like, reverse osmosis or microfiltration, but our treatment systems will remove almost 99% of those pharmaceuticals, right? So that's why we have, somebody asked me during the tour, why do we keep chlorine in the water? Right, so that chlorine will show you there's no harmful bacteria left in the water that will impact public health. But that does not mean, for the only thing that for sure will remove pharmaceuticals and all that micro level systems will be, advanced systems like reverse osmosis or microfiltration. But this system that we have by, sedimentation and flotation and filtration and adding chemicals through the process will kill any bacteria that's left in the water. So that's why, we're required by law to maintain a certain level of chlorine residual in the system. So that way, the water that you drink is safe to drink.
And the other part of your question, I think, is like a security kind of a question. So there's cameras in many, many places that we saw when we toured the control room, which is partly why we didn't want people taking any pictures. But there's also additional processes, I'm sure.
There are,
Yeah,
were you gonna say?
go ahead.
I'll start. There are definitely on the watershed impact and a bunch of other things. Not only that, but there's also a lot of security systems for the computers that operate this facility and everything else that's going on. There's also continuous testing of the water that's coming into the facility and continuous testing of the water coming out of the facility. And there are various safeguards of how we would be able to understand what's coming in and what's going out of the facility so that we can make adjustments if needed.
Yes, I was trying to be careful not to divulge most of the security systems that we have and how we maintain, the safety and security of the drinking water system. But, we have online monitoring systems that continuously 24/7 monitor, the water that comes to the facility and the water that goes out of the facility meets all the requirements.
Okay, thank you. So my third question is, somebody asked two good questions over there about the financing and the cost of this facility, which is considerably more than was first presented. So the question is, what interest rate are we as taxpayers paying for the capitalization of this plant?
For that, we'll need to get back to you on that. And if you could give your contact information to Tony, or actually, if we could send it out to the whole group, we could talk about, so without getting into the gory details, this project is funded through Fund 61, and there are various levels of financing that we use for various projects along the water utility fund. But we do have some information available online, but for detailed information, we can have our CFO get to Tony and talk to you about that. I would like to say that Valley Water has a good credit rating and generally gets very reasonable interest rates. But for the actual numbers, I'll have our CFO get to Tony and talk to you about, or get to let you know what our our interest rates are and what our capital, what our loans and bonds.
Financial structure.
The financial structure thing.
Yeah, and will you loop me in on that? Thank you, in case anyone else wonders about that. I'd like to know
So
too.
is this project now fully funded? So there should be no delays from a financial funding standpoint?
So, yes, it is fully baked into our rate forecast. The board does set the rate every year, but it's in and we're actually going through that process right now. In our forecast that we have, both our long-term forecast and the shorter-term forecast and the 5-year CIP, this project is fully funded in all of those.
So there will be no delays from the plan.
There won't be any, there aren't any anticipated delays from financial projected, as long as the board continues to pass the staff recommended rates.
Great questions.
Mike, we have a
One other than that.
question on Zoom.
We've got a Zoom question. Yes, let us know, Jose.
John, so he's been,
Hey, can you hear me?
There you go, John, you're unmuted. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate my neighbors there. They're way more polite than I am.
Uh-oh.
Missing a forecast by 3x, in other words, going from 5 to 15, that's incompetence, and you guys should own that. It's disingenuous to sit there and just say that we misforecasted and it's the contractor's fault. So somebody should own that, and I imagine they have, because there's been a rotation of management for the last 10 years. My question is as follows. In November, I was asked to allow a surveyor into my house to, I think, estimate the damage that could be done by the next 3, 4, 5, 6 phases. I requested a copy of the risk analysis that was done to bring you to that conclusion. When am I going to get that?
Great question. And got someone coming up to answer. Sometimes we will preliminary go and do an assessment of a property so that we have a baseline. So if there's any change, then your claim will be valid.
Yeah, well, my guess is that there's already damage done to our properties and you guys are liable.
Yeah.
And you know it.
Go ahead.
And I'm close to filing a Freedom of Information Act to start finding this out. It's just that your advantage is people are too busy to track it. We can't even keep track of the phases. And you get away with it because people are distracted and busy. And the fact is that you're now saying that there could be damage after 10 years, what are we, nearly 10 years? There could be damage by the next 6 years or 5 years?
Yeah.
Give me a break. Give me an absolute break. Are you kidding me? I asked for that, the risk analysis in November. It goes into the ether. You put Tony in between everything, and it's not fair on Tony. He has to answer to the entire community, and he's a buffer for you guys. And everybody hides behind the bureaucracy. And it's disgraceful. You abuse this neighborhood, and you know it. And you meet us once a quarter or once a year, and you say things are going to be great. You reevaluated in 2018 that you were going to be miss the schedule. First time we've all heard of it. You don't own it. You hide behind Tony, and you abuse the neighborhood.
I won't hide behind Tony. This is Rebecca, your elected representative, and I'd love to hear more about this. As I said, I don't know much about this. I'd be happy to visit your home or anything else so I can understand.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Come to my home. We can talk about it. And all of you there, you should all be giving your information to the neighborhood in terms of, so when we email Tony, we email all of you. You should feel his pain.
Yeah.
Let's give Brandon a chance to answer, sir, but thank you for your very good question.
So thank you for the question. My name is Brandon Ponce. I'm the Capital Engineering Manager in the Treatment Plants Project Delivery Unit. And I did get that question and look into if there was a risk analysis done, and that document does not exist. There
Who made the decision that you could potentially harm my property? Who that was just like, oh, we better go survey these houses. We may mess them up. That's how your decision making is done.
The survey is a photo survey, and to get a baseline of the condition of roadways, of driveways, to document any cracks that might happen.
I understand what the survey is for, so I don't mean to press you, to be rude to you here, man, but you should have done this in 2015. My guess is our properties are already damaged.
Yeah, that was good.
And you guys are liable, and you know it. You're hiding right now. So there has to be some decision matrix to go and get a third party to go survey, I don't know, 10 or 15 houses. If you're telling me it's just some random decision, that's again more incompetence.
So that's what's going on right now. There is, a voluntary survey for residents that, would like to or would not like to participate in it. It's up to you.
And this is not unique just to this project. We often on other large projects will offer to do a baseline photo, and why it didn't happen in 2015, I don't know, but this is not unique to this project, that we, on other
Okay,
projects.
so give me an example of a project that
So
was
the
done
Anderson Dam
and there was
project for
there was
homes
actual
next to-
damage done to houses.
Hold
Is
on,
there-
we listened to we heard your question. I want to give you an answer. So for the Anderson Dam project, for example, there are homes near the edge of the reservoir where there has been some slippage. And so we've done studies of their foundations and photos and taken engineering studies of them. So if there is a change, then they are able to file a claim and the district will evaluate that and make repairs as our legal team works through that. So there is a process to file a claim if you feel that something's happened as a result of the work here. It is not a complicated process. And so we encourage you to do so. It is your right to do so, and we'll help you do it. But this study is just to document the condition. So if it changes, you can attribute it to, especially since there's going to be some concrete removal for these clarifiers.
And I
We're
would
10
like to
years in, we're
clarify
10
that-
years into this. We're talking in circles. The damage is probably already done. We can retroactively say.
I'm happy to get you the information on how to file a claim and it can be evaluated. And so we'll get that information to Tony and we'll forward that out.
And hey, this is just another example. I asked for this 3 months ago and it goes into the ether and there's no response. So this kind of continued echo of like, we're here for the community. We want to engage and we want to be transparent.
We're here now.
It's not the case.
Well, I'm being recorded on Zoom, encouraging you to trust us once more time, and we'll get that information to Tony for how to file a claim. But people in other projects filed claims, they were justified and repairs were made and the district paid for it. So that's the process we have. And so part of that baseline study is to determine the condition. And if there is a change after this, they will make those. And on the Coyote Creek project's another one where people have done similar studies as they install and where we install sheet pile retaining walls behind buildings all the time, just to determine the baseline. And if there's a change, if there's plaster cracking, those kinds of things, you've got to document it. That's what that picture's for.
And I haven't been receiving my email regularly. So try again to email me too. I'm really sorry about this experience. I know everyone is. So yeah, I think now, at least I can say I'm now aware of this or aware of a little bit of it. And everyone takes it seriously.
I don't doubt that you guys are trying to be genuine. It's just a bureaucracy that's ineffective. That's I think probably the issue. But to tell me that if you're telling me I can retroactively say you've done damage to my house back to 2015, great. But I bet you that's going to be an uphill battle. So Tony, please give me that information and
I'm not the one that's going to evaluate that, but we can't do anything if you don't tell us about it. And so the process we have is for you to file a claim and then we'll work through that process.
I am your representative.
And you have an elected representative and we have, this is being recorded. It'll be on our website. So I encourage you to avail yourself of that opportunity. And I know it's frustrating, but that's the process we have.
How did you determine which houses were being surveyed?
So
Distance from the project? Or what is it?
So it was a combination of distance from the actual, it was a combination of distance from the actual work. And this time around, we tried to capture all the homes that perimeter the property line.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
So I get what you're doing, but it doesn't really tell me I live directly adjacent to your property. Like, what is specifically like my line of sight? Like, am I gonna see trucks? Is there a way for us to, those that are really adjacent to your property, to actually see what's gonna happen in the next 10 years? I'd like to request a specific tour for my property or my
Let's work
neighbors.
on, and this is something we had talked about beforehand. If someone wants to really examine a specific thing that while is extremely important to you, might not be something the entire crowd wants to hear, we can set up a separate time for you to come out. And the person to do that through is through Tony. And part of the reason we didn't do the full tour today is not just because it rained, but you have to wear still like really specific shoes, helmets, and PPE. Protective equipment because it's a construction site. But I'm not saying we want to do 40 tours, but if we have to, work to schedule that, but
Yeah, I don't want to do the tour of the facility. I want like.
Out to your
my property
fence
and
line
say,
and-
in the next 10 years, or the, whatever, the next.
yeah, it'll be like this, there's gonna be a building coming up here, and so that may or may not be, I get it. So we can,
Well, not just that, I mean, we endured dust, I mean, enormous
Yeah.
amounts of dust. There was a period, probably about a month where it felt like we had an earthquake when you guys were dredging the pond. Like, I want to know specifically, like, I don't want this to be like, oh, it happened, and then now I gotta file a claim. I want to know what's gonna happen.
Also, there was, I think someone had said you're gonna fill in one of the ponds for purposes that I'm not really understanding.
the comment is, were we gonna fill in one of the ponds? So,
Percolation?
there's some sediment ponds, is that what you're talking about?
The
Down
pond
by our
along the
house,
creek.
along the creek
You have
and
a,
along the park. It borders the park. You're up there.
Is that ours?
There's two.
yeah.
Oh, are you going to stop there? Okay, so I was the one who.
Come
came
over
with
to the podium. Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi,
And
Mrs.
restate it.
So I was the one that came over to your house, last week. I spoke to your husband.
Yeah.
You have a lovely home. And I got to see the work from your perspective. I went up onto your deck. I know what your view looks like. And we are looking into it. And, you know, I told your husband to give me a couple months to work out some of the details, and then I would be getting back.
Okay.
Yes.
But are you planning on filling in that pond, or you're still kind of working out?
It's a staging area, part of it. It's a
Staging
area,
area for what?
for a stockpile of soils, maybe some equipment. We're working out the details. I asked for a little bit of time to get in more specifics.
And I appreciate
Yes.
that. Thank you for that. But I have another question that kind of goes along with that. Since this main part was built in 67, and so the standards have changed as far as, you know, what's considered dangerous, you know, chemicals and materials that may have been used back then. So how do you go about safely taking that stuff out so it's not all over the air, or it's not being, you know, piled up near our homes?
The oversight governing body that you're using, we want a third party to come in and understand what the demo is.
Huh.
What materials are you gonna demolish that the neighbors are gonna be subject to?
There's gonna be demolition of pipe. Some of the pipe does have, you know, lead in it because it's old. And we're utilizing methods such as maybe not saw cutting through that.
So what governing body are you using for this oversight of the demolition?
Who regulates that construction?
You know, we have a demolition plan in place.
So you have not invited a third party in to help you?
Yes, we have. A third party has done a study. We have
Get transparency for that document as well?
yes.
Is it the county?
We hired our own kind of third party industrial hygiene.
But did we have to pull permits from the county or something?
No,
That's alarming.
The work will be done by a certified contractor that's hazmat certified and has licenses for all the, there's a little lead and some, in the coffin on the.
That's
paper
great for
pipe.
the workers, but that's not great for the neighbors who are bordering this facility.
No, correct. So that's the same for all my construction employees, myself and Leo as well. So what happens is that gets contained and it gets bagged and tagged. And then there's hazmat manifest that will be signed by Valley Water, and that will be transported off-site, contained in containers that are sealed. So it will not be airborne, during construction.
Okay.
So we keep it wet and it's regulated by the state of California as HAZWA. So all the employees doing the work will be trained and the materials will be contained to meet California state and HAZWA standards. And then Valley Water will sign the hazmat documentation to remove it from site to a disposal site.
Okay, so it's
So
not
that's the
going to be put on your staging area.
Correct.
And the county's not involved for oversight.
Regulations are, I'm sure they're following them.
Correct. This is all state government.
I'd like to know about your recycling wastewater. Are we already doing that at this facility or is there a plan?
Recycling the wastewater that you
What's your
answered.
question?
Purification.
No, we don't do wastewater clarification here.
No.
No.
Is it part of the plan at all? to
No,
replace-
Using all the water, no wastewater goes offsite.
No, it's not. Maybe to clarify, when we say zero waste, does not mean no toilet water. The water that we use for processing, for chemicals and all that, that's the water we use again. We don't discharge anything offsite. That's what I meant. We're not recycling any waste here now.
Great questions. Yes. Construction along the creek,
Yeah.
Smith Creek.
Maybe you could bring up,
Can you pull up
we
the,
don't have, we have
I
one.
don't know if we,
Are you talking about the road? Yeah, so that was, I know what you're talking about. That was recently done by our watershed group. And, they wanted to kind of, pave it's a maintenance road.
along the creek?
She's talking
It's a-
about.
it's a long- it's a
You're
long-
talking about the walkway. You guys are talking about two different things.
I think I'm talking about the walkway along the creek that goes along the plants. It's like it looks like it was put in for.
Fresh granite.
The crushed granite, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it looks like a walkway, but it's actually a maintenance road
Yes.
when they need to do maintenance on Smith Creek.
So is there any more work that's planned over there and the native plantings that were put in a few months ago? Is there any plans to maintain that in any way? It looks like it's kind of been put in and kind of abandoned in that area.
So that was first brought to my attention by one of your neighbors last week. I did walk the path and walk the area, and I did see that some of their oak woodland trees, they did not survive. So we will go back and look at that, and then we can get back to you.
Just as a follow-up, like not just those plants, but the ones even on your hill all look dead. Looks like everything that you planted in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years hasn't made it. Yeah. I think to John's point, like, I guess we're just a little concerned about the competency of these projects.
That was also just brought to my attention, and we're looking at all of that as well.
When they brought the trees in, they left them in the containers and they all died at the initial start in 2015 along the front side. So I do have a question in regards to something Tanya brought up, and that is the amount of noise and dirt. So, I've lived in the neighborhood since 2007, and it was fine until the construction started in 2015. We closed our windows, but my house is so dusty that I could dust in the morning and literally have to. The noise from the wind patterns brings all that noise to the cul-de-sac of Bicknell, the forgotten neighborhood, except for Paul.
Where is Bicknell? I'm sorry, I should know that, but is it
We abut,
Yeah.
right
Up-
by the pond
there?
there.
Oh, down there?
No, up towards
Up,
it, yeah.
okay.
north.
Up there?
Mhm.
Got it.
So with the wind patterns, it brings all the noise down to us and all the dirt. Not such an issue in the winter because it rains and it brings the dirt down. But in the summertime, I have to have my filters on 24/7. We would like that neighborhood to have compensation from you for running our HVAC when it's not needed. My house could be 60 degrees naturally in the summer. I'll be in my house wearing sweaters and it'll be 100 degrees outside. It's not, I'm running air conditioning to be cool. I'm running air conditioning so that I can breathe. I have asthma and it's a serious situation.
What is that dust? Is the dust from demolition? Sorry, I wasn't briefed on it. It's from demolition
It's
dust?
from demolition, all the work that they did, all the trucks that were moving, even just the dust from the truck that comes right through that walkway to those houses. Their houses might abut to it, but if you look straight down that pathway, my house is right there. I'm getting all the dirt.
For how much time?
It started in 2015, I've been running the HVAC.
So is your house like kind of
I
right
have
up,
a
right
little
up there?
picture. I have a picture I'll show you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
speak with you after the meeting.
So our request is that cul-de-sac get clarification somehow for us having to keep on our filters. Because it's with the escalating PG&E, it's ridiculous.
It's really expensive.
Yeah,
So,
It's actually
I didn't have to use it. I didn't
As a
have
part
to
of
use
this
it.
next phase, he's
you
got,
know, so like you said, it's not that bad because, you know, it's
Winter.
winter time, it's raining. And so one of the things we're doing different on this project is a couple of things. We're gonna do additional watering in that area to keep the dust down.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And then we're also setting up dust control monitors as well. They're dust control monitoring devices, which we did not have the first time around.
We'd be very thankful for that, definitely, but I will address it if it's not. If it is a serious, another 5-year program that it might end up being another 10, it's a situation for us. And some of us are not getting any younger. The last thing I'd like to say is, if you're gonna be using that as a staging area, that is where a lot of the wildlife lives. And do you have a solution for that?
So yes, we have a certified biologist on the project who does weekly and monthly biological surveys. If any wildlife is identified, something as, you know, small as a bird's nest, we will be installing exclusion buffer areas around that area to protect them.
So even if they burrow in the ground?
The biologists have all of those on their radar, yes.
Forgive me for questioning it, but if for the first time you saw the dead foliage and plants that were planted a year ago, my confidence of you having a biologist on payroll is not very strong. My confidence is not there.
And so the reason why, so that was done under a different project. It's outside of the plant fence line. But
that's
not
water utility group, that was the
right,
watershed.
it's our watershed group, but now that we know of it, we can communicate that to them.
And work together.
We're all a pretty tight neighborhood. We walk those pathways frequently. We live in the neighborhood. We're all a little bit alarmed at the 5-year, potentially 10-year program that you are gonna be phasing in. We all want safe, reliable, and whatever your term was, we all want that. So we're not trying to give you a hard time, but we're actually living it day to day. You get to drive home and be away from this. We are living with the noise. And that's the other thing. How are you gonna abate the noise without wind pattern coming towards us?
So a couple of things we're also doing different. We're also installing noise monitors on this project to establish a baseline level of the noise and to also help minimize the exceedances when they occur.
And to document them.
You know, the trucks, that was an issue for us because it was that constant beeping in the beginning. It was just like constant when they're backing up. And then the OSHA has to deal with that. But at one point you did something really nice, which made it sound like it was a bird or a duck. And it was so much easier. I hope, and then you stopped. So I would love that. That would make
We'll
sense.
definitely take it under consideration. Most vehicles can work with that, some cannot, but we will definitely continue to work with that.
Correct.
We would definitely, we want transparency. The only way that it can work is without grumpy neighbors is transparency. And knowing when you're gonna drill, knowing when you're gonna do stuff. We've all in that perimeter houses, like John was saying, it's hard to document when you're thinking, well, was it a slight earthquake or was it actually the facility? So there's concern.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I apologize, I couldn't get here on time for the
Welcome.
presentation. We happen to live just right across the street from the entrance there.
You here?
Yep.
Okay.
And during COVID, we've been through this and, you know, I guess one of the questions is, there's always gonna be people complaining about things. Some are warranted, some are just something you have to grin and bear it. Are these changes that you're doing, are these to come up to code or for improvement of the water system? I mean,
It's an update. It's a 67, built in 1967. We did record this meeting, and so it'll be up on our YouTube page, so you'll be able to view the presentation, which goes in depth.
all right,
but
so it's an upgrade to current standards.
So these are the new buildings. This is the new, if we go back one slide,
Okay, no, I get that. So it's kind of a must-have.
these will do what these are doing. So these need to be demolished so that the next phase of the project can be built there.
Okay. So then, I have two questions. One is, I might be able to, you know, look at your video and answer some of them. And the other one is we had like 2 certified mail letters come to us to have our house surveyed. And it's always, you know, it's always it kind of makes you a little bit nervous. You don't really want somebody to come in. They're just gonna find reasons to, you know, I don't know. It's kind of scary for us. So my husband just flat out says he doesn't want to do it. But I would really like to find out. I mean, what do you actually do during this survey?
Yeah, why? Why are you doing
Well,
it?
they're doing it so that if there's damage in the future, they have evidence of what the condition is now. Is that
If there's a difference, then it makes the claim very simple, but
Yeah, but it also
creates a baseline.
makes it, you know, as a bigger.
Not looking for the electrical outlet your cousin added or something, like none of that. Yeah, not your cousin, but just it's intended to document the existing conditions of the cement or the stucco. And if at some other point it's changed dramatically and the only difference is this demolition happened across the road, we've got a process. You can file a claim and say this was damaged while that was happening, and here's you did the baseline picture, and here's what it looks like now. It's a big crack. Then you can file a claim with the district, and they'll resolve it
Okay.
and evaluate it and resolve it. Not.
But you said that you wanted to take interior pictures too, and I mean, that's
That's
what
a
the
great question.
justification was, and so you know, it's
It
like.
might be of just of the drywall, those types of things,
So should people?
or the
look
floor.
within, like,
Let's
a
see if we
mile,
can
get
get an answer for you.
assessment done by a
Well,
private
we're
person?
the reason we're sending this out, and we do this in a lot of capital projects, so you might have missed that part, but we do this on a lot of them, is order to just have the baseline, and it's,
It is the baseline. We don't go into details, taking inside of your house. We normally take outside and it's to capture, for example, on Anderson, like he's talking about, you know, when there's vibrations, some of the walls crack.
Right.
And so when you do a baseline, you can then compare and know that there is crack or there wasn't any crack before we did the construction. So then it makes your claim easily, it can be resolved easily.
very careful.
Prove it.
Okay, so then like, what if, you know, like, okay, all right, so could you, if we wanted to do this, is it still available to have somebody come and survey our property?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you have to let people in the inside?
Just do
You can
extra.
do exterior only. You can let people into just certain rooms and block up certain rooms. They'll go over all of that with you. It's what you're comfortable with.
Okay.
So have seismic engineers or someone like that determined that a certain area or perimeter is more subject than others to this type of damage? Where is that information?
And where's the transparency of that information?
Well, let's just talk a little bit more about it. And then,
I think they used he answered this before, was they used an aerial picture. So properties that are adjacent to the project area or close to where the work is, got the letters. And the reason they're certified is to make sure that got it. But I know that's not, you probably had to go to the post office to get it or something, and that's annoying. But it's a legal thing. You're entering your house, so that's how they do it.
I mean, at the moment, if you are here and you are interested for us to come and survey, we will come and survey your house, even if it's not near. You know, but from us, our standpoint, we are looking at the perimeter because that's where we anticipate that there will be damage or something from, you know, something changes.
Yes, but sir, you're 10 years late. This is the point I was trying to highlight earlier. The paradox is you're saying, do this now, and we'll tell you, we'll reconcile that with you. I'm saying my house is already damaged.
Okay, so this meeting is not about 2015. It's about now going forward. We're already to have people leave the room here. So if there's some other questions we still have.
Yeah, go ahead with your question.
So
Yeah.
maybe you could just like in 30 seconds tell me you're gonna remove these old big round things and you're gonna put in these new sleeping things. And so we're gonna, does that require excavation? You're gonna take that out and then are you gonna do excavation deeper? So there's gonna be a lot of pounding like we had a couple of years ago.
No. Well, tractors, but we will not have, we're not driving pile. Everything we're doing is we're drilling. And when we get to the bottom of the clarifiers, it'll just be tractors excavating. There's only some pipes that go below. So once demolition is done, it'll just be soil excavation. We're not pounding, sheets in, and, the shoring we're installing is drilled. So you won't hear the thump, all that.
So I'm not sure everybody could hear your response, but you're with the contractor, so the goal is to minimize the pounding and to do different types of construction. It sounds like, and our chair has given me this guidance, so I'm going to be smart and listen to our board chair, is that it sounds like we need to do some individual, like come out to your property and have that conversation. We're happy to do assessment that you're comfortable with,
Yes.
but this is the first time we've gathered in 4 years. And so we do want to be responsive. And if there were folks, so is there anyone who has a question that hasn't asked it yet? Then I want to hear from you, ma'am. Sorry about that delay.
With the demolition of all the concrete, all the dust in the air, which we know from before, you said you were having,
Dust monitors
Monitors.
and air and sound noise monitors.
and is bad, what are you gonna do about it? What is happening then? Is there anything different from last time with all the concrete that's being destroyed?
So typically, we would kind of take a pause in the work, a short pause in the work to kind of reevaluate what's going on and maybe provide additional watering of the concrete being demoed to minimize that. And so it's kind of, the monitors will kind of help us stay on top of everything.
You didn't have those before and you're going to do it, be more careful.
Correct.
And the trucks removing the dirt, how are you gonna abate that?
Vimo, can you help me with that?
The dust is, the trucks will be covered.
We're having a conversation, you said there'll be less drilling, but there'll be more hauling, which means trucks will be taking dirt out, which means more dust. We can't, if a dust monitor, if he's gonna water the dust on the concrete, how is he gonna water the truck? The trucks are creating the dust as well.
Her question was specifically about the demolition of the
Yeah.
concrete. And so as they're having to jackhammer this stuff, and cut it.
It'll be wet going into trucks and the trucks we'll wash tires as they go out. So they will be,
So they're not covered trucks.
They'll be covered, right? The top of the.
they're covered.
Is it generally, or they will all be covered?
I'd have to check on the requirement.
We request that they all be covered.
If you guys are monitoring that
Yeah.
data in real time for noise and pollution, will that be publicly available in real time? Or is that something that would be require a request?
Great question.
There will be a report printed kind of monthly, but I don't know if there will be a way to get you the information in real time.
You have our email.
I mean, real time would be great because that.
I will get the report monthly.
Yeah, I've not heard of someone doing it in real time. And again, there are some areas of this property that we don't generally want pictures of and things like that. So we don't have a construction camera that's live feed on this project. That's what I'm
Monitor,
saying.
it's not a video.
But I've not heard of those being let.
Like an air quality.
Air quality.
Daily, air quality, so we know.
She's been waiting for a question. You go ahead, ma'am.
Hours, would it be 9 to 5,
Great
24/7?
question. What are the general hours of the project?
The general hours of the project are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. But between the times of, 7 to 8, it's going to be quiet type work. The workers will arrive. They will set up in their offices. Safety meetings could happen during this time. So it's quieter kind of setup work. And the same thing kind of at the end of the day.
Okay, so the demolition itself would be like 10 to 5?
It could be as early as 8 to 5.
When this project first started, we had quarterly meetings here in this room. And I would like those to be reinstated again, because when the pandemic hit, everything came to a halt.
That's a great idea.
So it would be nice to be able to communicate to us, at least officially quarterly, so we know what's going on and ask questions of you guys, so we can keep track.
Let me ask a
With this
question
project
on that,
going on.
because I think that's a terrific idea. Would a Zoom meeting be okay?
Well, like you're doing both right now, right?
Right, we're doing both right now. There's a little logistics to do too, but would in person here or would a Zoom work?
Me personally, in person, I mean, we all live very close.
Got it, okay. I just wanted to ask. 'Cause- I think that's probably something that we can accommodate and I think, let's especially try to accommodate it in the first year and make sure that we're off to a better foot.
Online that I never get to see enough as it is when I'm dealing with stuff. It'd be nice to see the person who I need to deal with.
Fair enough.
I would appreciate that very much.
That's a great idea. You had a question? Anyone on Zoom?
I have a question, which is just wanted to kind of clarify. So none of the other phases, phase 1 and 2, did not involve demolition.
It did. Yeah.
We did.
It was very good. So when you say drilling, are you drilling looking for pipes, or are you drilling knowing that pipes are already there?
Great question.
I think she's talking about potholing.
Potholing.
So for potholing, it's done with various, and basically what we're trying to do is as we mentioned before, it's a running facility, right? People, at any given time, there's 500,000 people drinking the water coming from this facility, right? And so one of the things that we really want to do is make sure that when we're doing this demolition or doing these other pieces of construction, that we don't accidentally hit things that have been there for, since 1967. Typically, when we're talking about drilling or other things, is typically what will happen is if there is concrete or other things, there'll be a small saw cut or other things there. Then typically it's a vacuum excavation or other things that'll go in and try to do that. And when we're talking about drilling, we're not drilling deep or anything like that. It's usually a very small hole, sometimes in the 6-inch range or so, just going down and just trying to find the pipe. It's generally very quiet. It's generally very soft because we're not actually trying to damage the facility we're looking for. We're actually just trying to find it. I don't know if the contractor wants to talk about some of the other technologies you may be using to identify your utilities.
I don't want to take up all your time. I do want to thank you for safe water. Don't drink the bottled water. We open it in the tap and we drink it.
Did you get that on Zoom? All right.
Yeah.
There you go. It's big, so thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Oh, my.
Great idea. I think that's a takeaway from tonight.
Did we get any? I know the ones that have stayed, is there, please ask another question, or we do promise to have another one and we're gonna do quarterly. Yes. Me and you.
That'd be great. I'll come.
I think that makes a lot of sense as we kick off this phase. So it's easy for me to say. Any other last, for the good of the order, we say sometimes?
Mike, just so that we address the question here that was already discussed, the noise, how mitigate noise impacts.
We have noise monitors.
Just wanted to make sure we got the
It's
question.
like ducks too, that duck noise.
Right,
And then the backup trucks,
That's
instead of
Look into
beeping,
that.
we're looking into
And then
duck sounds.
maybe Brandon, you could talk about it and how we're partnering with the contractor to understand, when they hit exceedances, there are rules in the contract that we need to work together to try to understand how we're going to keep those exceedances down, right? We want to make sure that we can continue to keep the project moving, but we also want to make sure that we're meeting the requirements that we put into contracts and how we can make those things work. I do know that you did ask about some real-time stuff. We will try to look into what we can get Tony on a regular basis to kind of get to various things. Some of these things don't download all the time, or there's some other things that we're looking at, but we are more than happy to tell you what kind of monitors we have out there, how frequently we can get that data to you, and where we'll continue to try to understand how we can do that into the future. And again, I know you all Tony is the buffer, but we have Tony because he's one of the best out there. And so please continue to bug him so that he can find the right person here so we can answer your question.
So with that, thank you, Chief Baker. I want to thank our presenters and more importantly, I want to thank your audience for your feedback as we launch into this next phase of our relationship. How's that? And as we move forward, we'll keep you posted. Please make sure we have your email and contact so that we can alert you and your neighbors. Maybe someone's not here tonight. And again, we'll post this on our YouTube channel. Yes.
Starting this March 11th.
Contractor put those in.
Yeah, it's slated to start mid-March, right?
Yeah, mid-March, yeah.
So
Yeah, they were here.
soon.
When is the duration?
Trees.
Mid-March. Mid-March. So that's why they're empty. So thank everyone who joined us on Zoom. We're going to wrap up this virtual meeting and we'll be definitely in touch. And for some of you, we'll be probably on your porch in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.